What is poppin', my people? It's your boy Mark here, man, with Marky Sports, and we got another reaction video for you in terms of these mock drafts, and this is from the legend himself, the fantasy football guru, one of my favorite TV and radio personalities, man, and that is Field Yates. He recently released his mock draft 4.0. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about it. It's a two-rounder. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts and opinions on it. So, guys, if you love the NFL draft, and if you love Denver sports, man, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm so close to my goal of 1,000 followers. So if you're a subscriber, thank you. Tell a friend, have a friend, tell a friend, and we'll get there in no time. I appreciate it, guys. So without further ado, let's get into it, man. Field Yates, round one, pick one, Cam Ward, Tennessee Titans. This is basically just set in stone. We don't have to talk about it too much. It's pretty simple. He's got a lot of the tools. Is he going to fit with Brian Callahan? Is he going to handpick him? We shall see. But Cam Ward to the Tennessee Titans makes a lot of sense. In this one, he's got, in pick two, Abdul Carter, the edge rusher, going to the Cleveland Browns. And this one's always interesting. It's not like it's not a unique pick, and I think it's a pick that makes a lot of sense because I look at Cleveland and I say, man, they're Cleveland, right? They're a franchise that's never really been ran very well. The owner, Jimmy Haslam, has came out, made some comments about, they made a mistake signing Deshaun Watson, and it's kind of crazy because they still got him. He's still the quarterback. He's rehabbing an injury, but it was pretty eye-opening. But I'm always of the fan of saying you swing and you miss on a quarterback until you find your franchise guy. If it was me, I would take Abdul Carter. But this also makes a lot. I would not take Abdul Carter. If it was me, I would take Shedeur Sanders. But taking Abdul Carter makes a lot of sense because the strength of the Cleveland Browns is their defense, is their pass rush, obviously starting with Myles Garrett. And being able to make a strength even more of a strength with Abdul Carter would be nasty. Nasty there in Cleveland, especially playing in the AFC North. So I can get behind this pick, especially because I just don't think they have the infrastructure and the continuity in place to be able to make a franchise quarterback truly shine. And as a Shedeur Sanders fan, I just don't want to see him in Cleveland. So I'm good with this. All right, speaking of Shedeur, he got him going to the New York Giants at 3. I think that for the New York Giants, this is obviously a pick that makes a lot of sense. Now, it's not the best situation for Shedeur because he's going to have a lame duck GM potentially and a lame duck head coach. Who knows if they're even going to be there after this season. But I feel like from a personality standpoint, he could handle the New York media really well. And obviously with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston there, he doesn't have to play right off of the bat, even though I think he's probably a more polished quarterback already than a lot of those guys. We'll see, but I like the idea of them bringing Shedeur. I think that they should. They might have learned their lesson from skipping on quarterback last year, even though they got a really good player, Malik Neighbors. It's always a bad pick if you skip out on swinging and missing on a quarterback. Even if you swing and you miss, at least you got the right plan in place. They didn't even try to swing. They just went with a pass catcher, and look where they are. They were picking 6th last year, and now they're picking 3rd. And they always find a way to win these Week 17, Week 18 games to avoid them from getting in the first pick. I don't know, man. Giants fans, we're thinking of y'all. And I think you could turn it around really quickly if you nail it on quarterback. So there you go. I like that pick a lot, actually, for them. The New England Patriots settle for Travis Hunter, and that's a hell of a person to settle for because I think he's the best player in this draft. He can help them with, 20 to 30 wide receiver packages. I think Josh McDaniels can be very creative with the way that he uses them on offense. And he can be a shutdown corner on the opposite side, opposite of Christian Gonzalez. He helps them in 2 different areas that they're weak. I like that pick a lot for the New England Patriots. I think it's a no-brainer if the board falls this way. If not, if Travis Hunter is not available and Abdul Carter is gone, then maybe look for them to trade, for a team that might want to come up against Shedeur or Mason Graham, who is the next pick here to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Mason Graham lately has been someone that people have been saying has kind of been falling. It's been a little bit weird. I don't know why. All of a sudden, if your arms are a quarter of an inch too short, people are freaking out about it. It don't make no sense to me, man. I'll tell you that. So it is what it is. But I'm not a fan of that kind of narrative. That's for sure. Not at all. So let's make this a little bit bigger. Going down to pick number 6, we got the boy Ashton Genty. Now, let me tell you guys and preface by saying, I feel very, very, very confident at this particular point of the draft that the Raiders are not going to take Ashton Genty. I was just thinking about it a lot, man. It doesn't really make sense in a lot of different ways for the Los Angeles Raiders. He's a hell of a player, but they got Chip Kelly there as the offensive coordinator now. He obviously knows and loves Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson as I do. He saw the success that he had with them last year in Ohio State. He's thinking, man, we can get at least one of those guys with our pick in the second round. Why not continue to build out through the trenches? Especially because this is an entirely new regime and they could use more talent and better, play on the offensive end, the defensive line, and skill position players around for Geno Smith, who they just signed to an extension. So as great of a player as Ashton Genty would be for this team, you look at the Raiders, there was a chart that I saw. They are by far and away the worst when it comes to, running backs getting contacted behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, there's a chart that, and forgive me if I'm screwing this up, but there's a data point that's talked about that's saying, on average, when do running backs get contacted after they receive the ball? Like, are they behind the line of scrimmage? Is it at the line of scrimmage? Where is it at? The depth of contact, I guess, is I know there's a word for it, but I'm totally blanking on it. Anyways, that chart basically talks about like how good is your offensive line, right? How good are they protecting, especially, or how good are they run blocking to the point where like it's giving the running back opportunities, and they are by far and away the worst on an island of their own, on an island of suck, and they've done a couple of moves to get better there, but I don't know if it's necessarily enough. And as great of a running back as Ashton Genty is, if you really want to get the most out of your running backs, you've got to fortify the offensive line, and you've got to give the running back ample opportunity to be able to do well. So I don't think it's ultimately going to happen. If it does, hey man, he's a great player, but I want to be mad at it as a Bronco fan because I don't think he's really going to be set up for success there in Las Vegas. Armand Membu going to the Jets. This is a phenomenal pick for him. I think Armand Membu is clearly the best offensive lineman in this class. At this particular point, he can play inside and outside. He would just be a really great player to fortify that offensive line around Justin Fields. So I think it's a great pick for him. Big fan of Armand Membu. I expect for something like that to happen. We are back on the Jalen Walker to the Carolina Panthers train as Field Yates has him going to the Panthers at 8. I like it. I like it a lot. I think that they needed to fortify their defense, especially their pass rush. They made a few moves, but Jalen Walker just brings versatility, man. You can play him off ball. You can play him as a pure edge rusher, depending on what you're running. And I think that I think he fits really well there in the Ejiro Evero system. I think Ejiro Evero would really be able to get a lot out of him. So I like this pick. I really still do. I think Jalen Walker is just super slept on. And, it seems like one of those players where some guys love him and some guys, I want to say hate him, but they're not as high on him. So I love that pick for the Carolina Panthers. Moving on to the New Orleans Saints. This one was a little bit of a shocker, man, but not. Then again, you start to think about it and you hear how Field Yates talks about it, and then it kind of starts to make a lot of sense. The New Orleans Saints, especially with Mickey Loomis as the GM, they've always kind of gone after players with very high upside, trusting that their coaching staff can get the most out of them. Just to kind of look at their past draft classes. Shamar Stewart is exactly that. He doesn't have the crazy amount of production, 1.5 sacks each of the past 2 seasons in Texas A&M, but my goodness, does he wreck the game still at times, even if it's not showing up on the stat sheet with the amount of hurries that he's got and just the sheer athleticism that he has. So while I don't love this pick necessarily for the Saints, because I'm always a more conservative end of get guys that are productive first more than anything, I can understand how this could be a pick that would make a lot of sense. So yeah, Shamar Stewart going to the Saints. Moving on to the Chicago Bears. They are going to go with Will Campbell here. This would be such a good pick for them. I just don't think that they'll actually do it. I feel like they're going to fall back into the trap they did last year of trying to go after skill position players, thinking that they did enough to fortify their O-line. Now, they probably did, solidifying it, with making a trade with the Kansas City Chiefs for Joe Thuney. They went and got a couple other guys to be able to make their line better. But I think this makes a lot of sense for them because Ben Johnson likes to build the O-line first. He likes to build the team from the inside out. It is the best and it's the most proven way to be able to do so. Adding Will Campbell would be a really great move for them. He can play anywhere on the O-line. So wherever the hell their weakness is, and you can make arguments that they have weaknesses really at all positions, except for one of the guard positions where Tooney's going to play. He'd be able to help there. Super versatile. Great overall player. And you need to protect your franchise quarterback in Caleb Williams first, and then you can worry about giving him skill position players. They made that mistake last year. I don't think they do so this year under Ben Johnson. So, love that pick for the Chicago Bears. All right, the San Francisco 49ers are going with Walter Nolan at number 11. This is definitely earlier than you see Walter Nolan in a lot of mocks. And I don't know, man. San Francisco, they've had a terrible offseason. You saw how Kyle Shanahan was posing in that owners meeting photo, right? He looked like he was miserable. Everybody was having a great time and smiling. They've had a really rough offseason. And a lot of it has to do with my squad, as you can see in the background, the Denver Broncos, taking Hufanga and Greenlaw from them after they really tried to get him back. They've had a tough offseason, and Walter Nolan is one of those guys that can make their offseason either a lot tougher, or it can really justify it depending on how he turns out as a player. Now, I love the fit. I think Robert Saleh would love a player like Walter Nolan, and I think he could really get the most out of him. So I like the fit, even though I think it's very early for a player like him at 11. If there's a team that can do it, and if there's an offensive coordinator that can get the most out of him, I think that San Francisco is sneaky one of those teams. I also believe the Eagles could as well, obviously, given their track record. But I don't hate it, man. I don't hate it at all. I think it's really interesting. They lost a lot of veterans. They lost Malik Collins. They lost Javon Hargrave. So he'd be somebody he could play all over the offensive line. And if he hits, if he's somebody that buys in and that hits that potential, you're talking all pro level talent when it comes to Walter Nolan. Teteroa McMillan going to the Dallas Cowboys. Y'all probably saw my wide receiver rankings. I have Teteroa McMillan a lot lower just based off of the video that came out. I get that he was a freshman. I understand it. But guys, you act like he's very old now. That was just a few seasons ago. What is it, 2-3 years maybe that video came out? And so, I still take that into account. But then you hear a lot of different types of red flags in terms of the effort that he's showing against, certain guys in certain games. And why didn't he transfer from Arizona when he got the opportunity to? Anyways, I don't know. Aside from that, he has too many opportunities for jump balls. I worry about his separation a little bit in the NFL. But otherwise, listen, super talented player. And he actually makes a lot of sense for the Dallas Cowboys because he's a different type of player than CeeDee Lamb. He's more of that true outside X. He would complement CeeDee Lamb very well with CeeDee Lamb's ability to separate. So I don't hate this pick for the Dallas Cowboys at 12. I think he actually makes sense for what it is that they're looking for. I ultimately don't believe they necessarily go receiver here this early. I think the Dallas Cowboys would look to continue to solidify that offensive line, especially on the interior, as they could definitely use some upgrades. Or they could even go with an additional pass rusher to go with. It's one of those days. I had a busy work day today, so I'm kind of fried. But anyways, they could use some help on the defensive side of the ball as well. But I don't hate it. I think it's a decent pick for them, considering the type of receiver that they're looking for opposite of CeeDee Lamb. And to their credit, they've done a really good job in evaluating wide receivers. So if they took this, I think it would work out really well. Miami Dolphins are getting cornerback Will Johnson. This is a kind of a unique one. I haven't seen Will Johnson going to Miami in a lot of different mocks. It makes a lot of sense. There is a big hole opposite of Jalen Ramsey. And Jalen Ramsey is getting older, right? And so they need to be able to bring in talent on the back end. I still believe that they could get some decent corners that may be a little bit more raw later on in this draft class. But that being said, I think that if you're going to do this, Will Johnson will make a lot of sense. If you wanted to do it now and then maybe try to fill some of those holes later. I just feel like this is very likely for Miami. Like they're not really likely to go with an interior lineman because they just really haven't done that. over the past couple seasons. So, I mean, I think overall it's a good pick. It's a good pick, but I just feel like, man, you got a quarterback that just keeps getting killed, that keeps having these concussions and injuries. At some point, you've got to protect him better. But in addition to that, you also got to become a tougher team if you're the Miami Dolphins. You've got this whole, I mean, when the weather gets cold, you lose. It's not just it's not a fake narrative. It's a real narrative backed by stats and facts. And the only way that you really overcome that is if you become a tougher team, not so finesse. And I think you do that by solidifying the line of scrimmage on both sides, but specifically starting with O-line. But hey, they wanted to go with Will Johnson. It wouldn't be bad pick, but I'd probably rate it like a C pick. Because he's a good player, but I just feel like for the team and where they're at, they could do better. All right, the Indianapolis Colts are taking Tyler Warren. This is kind of becoming the norm here. It would be a phenomenal pick for them. He's an amazing player. Anthony Richardson would absolutely love him. And he would just be able to help give an additional weapon that they could use all across the line of scrimmage to help their run game and their pass game. This would be an A+ pick for them, no doubt about it. Tyler Warren he's the truth. He's awesome there. Atlanta Falcons going with Mike Green, the edge. I love this pick for them. They have been terrible, especially last year, at causing any kind of pressure and getting any kind of sacks on the quarterback. They might have finished dead last. I think that they did, but I know at one point it was really, really bad. They need to make major strides when it comes to rushing the passer. Mike Green is somebody that can do that. They're going to talk about the off-the-field stuff. They'll do their thing. I don't know much about it, but what I can tell you is he's extremely talented. He would make a lot of sense. I would give this pick an A. I can also see Donovan Ezaraku being somebody that, rises to this level and fits very, very well with the Atlanta Falcons. So I love that. They need pass rush help. You get the best, one of the better pass rushers. It's always smart. It's always a smart thing to do. So I am a very, very big fan of that pick. Moving on to the Arizona Cardinals at 16. They're going with Kelvin Banks Jr., the offensive tackle. I think, this is what he says. Arizona has an interesting offensive line arrangement as Paris Johnson Jr. started his career at right tackle before switching to the left tackle this past season. And so, listen, guys, again, anytime you take an offensive lineman that, is really solid, is able to play inside and out, play tackle in college, but, can play as a guard in the NFL, even if some teams think he's better. It's never going to be a sexy pick that like teams are going to be super thrilled about, or fans are going to be like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch this tackle play. But it's very, very smart. It's incredibly smart for teams to do so, especially if they need the help. So I like Kelvin Banks Jr. I think he's a really great prospect. Some people are saying he's the best tackle. I know he's a very good zone kind of. He'd be good in like a Kyle Shanahan, type of an offense. But I think he's a really good player. I think it's a good pick for Arizona to be able to help, Kyler Murray. Arizona is just one of those unique teams. It's a weird team. It's like Kyler Murray he's definitely, not bad enough to get benched. He's been solid, but he's not in that elite category either. He's just kind of like, he's cool. He's good. But get him better lines, allow for them to develop more of an identity there. I think Kelvin Banks Jr. is a really good pick for the Arizona Cardinals. I would give that a B. Who would I have rather taken? I don't necessarily think, there's so many different ways that you can go. I think for Arizona, I would have liked to see them go on the defensive side of the ball on the defensive line and just be able to get a little bit more pass rush presence there for Jonathan Gannon and that defense and really what it is that they wanted to get there. I would have liked, I'm even good with like somebody like a Kenneth Grant here would be somebody that makes a lot of sense. Or even Derek Harmon at 16, right? I think that they're that good, but when you play in a division like the NFC West, you've just got to get tougher, more physical. So they did that on the offensive side of the ball. I would have maybe liked to see them do it on the defensive side, but not a bad pick overall. Now this one I actually have an issue with. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. But now that I kind of see it and look at it, I guess maybe it makes sense. I love Gray Zabel. It has nothing to do with the player. The Cincinnati Bengals have invested like 35% of their cap on 3 players between Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. It's pretty crazy. if you ask me. So you would think, their problem last year was not scoring points. Their problem last year was giving up points. And so they need to fortify the defense. I know I use fortify a lot just because it's kind of my word of the day, so deal with it. But they need to fortify the defense. And they have to do it through the draft in a cheap way with some playmakers. So I would have really liked to see them go on the defensive side of the ball. I think their entire draft should be defense. I think, in fact, they should look at probably trading back, accumulating as much picks as they can, and then being able to build out the defense as much as they could. But if you do think about it, you did make an investment in the offensive side of the ball. It starts with quarterback Joe Burrow. So protecting him is going to be really important too. And Gray Zabel is a hell of a player to do that on the interior of the line. So I guess if you had to choose to not go defense, Gray Zabel does make sense, but I still think you cannot justify that over going on the defensive side of the ball because their defense is bad. And you don't know what the hell is going to happen with Trey Hendrickson. So love the player, but do not like the pick for the Cincinnati Bengals, given where they're at in the state of the franchise. All right, the Seattle Seahawks going with Matthew Golden. I ain't going to lie to y'all, man. This would be a hell of a pick for Seattle, especially if Gray Zabel was off the board like he is the pick before. Matthew Golden is a beast, man. And yeah, I get it. Now they got Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp, who are both kind of interior slot guys. And even though Matthew Golden is a little bit smaller, he ain't a slot guy. He can play outside. He can win outside. They would be dynamic and fast, both on the inside and on the outside with their wide receiver group. Sam Darnold would have a really good time with that. They wouldn't have the biggest receivers, but they would definitely have some receivers that can get open and separate. So this would be a really good pick. This would be a really, really solid pick for him. I think the best pick would be Gray Zabel. I could even understand maybe Tyler Booker here, even though it's a little bit early. But I think Matthew Golden is the best wide receiver in this draft class. So very, very good pick there for the Seattle Seahawks. Moving on. Tampa Bay Buccaneers going with Malachi Starks. This was an interesting one. You didn't see Malachi Starks be mocked to the Buccaneers a lot. Everyone's thinking pass rusher or somebody like a Jihad Campbell to replace Devin White, which would make a lot of sense. But hey, man, pairing up Malachi Starks with Antoine Winfield Jr. in the back end of that defense would be dangerous. Maybe they could figure out the linebacker situation and the pass rush situation later. Malachi Starks is a hell of a player. He would complement Antoine Winfield Jr. very well also. They'd have some ball hawks back there, man. They really, really would. So it'd be a really good secondary addition. If they can get pass rush on teams, it's all going to be for none. But I think that they're good enough there to be able to do so. So I don't hate this pick. I thought it was really interesting. I think that Todd Bowles would, really be able to utilize Malachi Starks and Antoine Winfield Jr. in a very unique way. And they could probably make up for the lack of linebacker play or talent or depth, potentially if they needed to, by putting one of those guys in the box a little bit more. So I like it. I think Malachi Starks is a hell of a player, man. Super slept on. Would make a lot of sense there in Tampa. I'd probably give them like a B or a B plus for this pick. I think Jihad Campbell would probably be the most ideal fit, but I like Malachi Starks, the player, a lot. So I think it's really solid. And a B is solid, man. A B is a very good thing overall. All right, let's move on to my Denver Broncos. And as usual, now everybody's taking Omarion Hampton to the Broncos. Listen, y'all, I get it. It's a pick that would make sense. I just don't think it's the best pick for the team because this is such a deep class. I don't see a huge drop-off. Some people see like Genty in their own tier, Omarion Hampton in the second tier by himself, and then the rest of the running backs in like a third tier, or like you have like Caleb Johnson, Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson. Some people have Cam Scatteraboo in another tier, and then everyone else. I don't see a very big gap between Omarion Hampton and the rest of the field. In fact, I think for the Broncos, somebody like Quinshon Judkins or Travion Henderson for sure would be a better fit and make more sense for them because both of them have much more experience and are much better at pass protecting than Omarion Hampton is currently. Now, it doesn't mean that he can't be. And I think that they add a lot more dynamic playmaking ability in the passing game. But I will say as a pure rusher, Omarion Hampton is special. His contact balance, his ability to to extend plays is really good. So I would not be upset at this pick because of the player. I would be upset at this pick because of the value. I do not like taking running backs in the first round. It's going to be hard for any of y'all to convince me otherwise. But everybody and their mom is basically mocking this. So it is what it is. I would give the grade a C. And mainly because it's a position of need and because Omarion Hampton is a hell of a good player. But otherwise, I think it makes a lot more sense to go with another weapon for Bo that you feel like can sign a second or a third contract here with Denver and can be extremely, extremely productive. And then you can get the running back in the second round. You can get a damn good one. Done a bunch of mocks. Works out better that way. But we're going to go with Omarion Hampton here at pick number 20. All right, Steelers are getting Jackson Dart. There's a lot of Jackson Dart buzz, man. There's a lot of Jackson Dart buzz. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think he's a really, talented player. The arm talent is great. He's got a lot of athleticism. But it's just too big of a leap, man, for me to have any kind of faith that he would be super good in the NFL. Now, I would say this. If he goes 21 of the Steelers, right? Or I guess if he goes to the Steelers, that would be one of the better situations for him to go. It's a really solid organization. Good head coach. They like to play defense. They're not going to have a lot on him. He doesn't have to start right away, which I don't think that he should. Just as they feel out like how he transitions to a much more complex offense in the NFL. So if he was going to go anywhere, Pittsburgh, I think would could make a lot of sense there. And there's some people that are hyping him up, man. They say he's a very, very good overall player. So that is what it is. I just feel like if you're Pittsburgh, you should make a move up to get him. If you're going to get him. If you're really going to commit. Because once you do that, you put your money where your mouth is, and now you have more of a commitment. You're going to give him more opportunities to really be able to go out there and be solid. So, Colston Loveland going to the Chargers at pick number 22. This would probably be the best pick and the best fit in the entire draft if this happened. Obviously, the Michigan ties with Jim Harbaugh. Colston Loveland is just the boss. He'd be so good in that offense. Him and Ladd McConkey would be just really, really tough to be able to cover. It would be an A+ pick, man. I would hate it because it was for the Chargers, obviously our division rival, but it would be a hell of a pick if the Los Angeles Chargers got Colston Loveland. It really would. He just kind of fits the identity of what they're trying to build out there. And he'd be a really good weapon for Justin Herbert. So be awesome, man. Awesome for them. Poop for Broncos, but awesome for them. Mikael Williams going to the Packers. This was interesting to me. I look at Mikael Williams as somebody that's like a very big boomer bust player. But if you're going to bet on a boomer bust player, you should do so at the edge position or the quarterback position. And they desperately need edge help there in Green Bay. So I like this pick a lot for them. They feel like they can get the most out of him, then boom, he's going to be a really good pick. But I love the positional pick of edge to really get that defense up and cooking a lot better. They need to have a better, pass rush there. Yes, they need to maybe look at replacing Jair Alexander. They could use some help on the back end. But it all starts, man. We know it. It all starts with the pass rush and the defensive line and how disruptive they can be. You got to get that going first, and then you could worry about the back end of the defense later. But you got to get a pass rush going. I like that pick a lot for them. Minnesota Vikings going with Jahdae Barron is actually really interesting. A lot of people talked about Malachi Starks or Nick Emanwari here. I think both those guys make a lot of sense in a Brian Flores offense, but so would Jahdae Barron. I definitely do not think he lasts until 24 in the real draft, but Field Yates knows a lot more than I do. He's a really good player. He's a smaller corner, but he don't play small. Very physical, good in the run game, can play inside and outside. He can give a lot of versatility to a Minnesota team that is building around their defense. Their defense is fun to watch, man. Brian Flores got that team cooking defensively. Jahdae Barron's a hell of a player. He'd be a really good fit there in Minnesota. Ain't no doubt about it, man. He'd be awesome there. Donovan Jackson going to the Houston Texans. I like this. I look at Houston as maybe being a team that could trade back to get more picks. They ain't, they ain't got they got more now actually with the Laramie Tunsil trade. But they could maybe trade back a little bit and get a couple different linemen. But I like Donovan Jackson a lot for Houston. Could they, use a tackle here? Sure. But the interior of that line needs a lot of help as well. I think he's a really good player. Donovan Jackson's obviously proven that he can play tackle on the college level. I don't know how he projects on the NFL level, but he can kick out and play tackle. but he's a very, very good guard. And they need to be able to protect CJ Stroud better. So I don't hate this pick. I think if Emeka Ibuka was still available, they should look at doing that. But as I said before, you got to get the offensive line going first. With Larry Tunsil being traded away, they could still use a little bit more help on the offensive side of the ball. And they can get skill position players later on with the extra picks that they picked. So don't hate that at all. I think it's a good pick for them. Los Angeles Rams going Maxwell Harrison. This is really interesting, man. When you see a lot of these big-time analysts like Field Yates or Mel Kiper or Daniel Jeremiah, with players like Maxwell Harrison in the first round, they're hearing this buzz. He's a good player, tested his ass off at the combine. Longer corner. He could make a lot of sense for the Los Angeles Rams. So it'd just be interesting to see what happens with Maxwell Harrison. I think that because you're consistently starting to see him at the top end of the first round, he might end up, there might be a lot of hype and a lot of buzz around a player like him. So good pick for a team that's continuing to build out their defense, even though they've really overperformed the last couple of years given the players that they got. James Pierce Jr. going to the Ravens, man. I like this pick. I think James Pierce Jr. is such a good player. But he's, again, one of those very polarizing guys. You either love what you see from him or you're not a big fan. Baltimore is a place where they can get the most out of him. He definitely adds a lot of juice for them on the pass rushing game. So it's a little bit of a drop for James Pierce, but you're going to a really good defensive system, a solid overall franchise. I like that pick a lot. Detroit Lions going with Derek Harmon. Another very good pick. One of my favorite players in this draft class is Derek Harmon. He is so disruptive, violent player. Athletically, just a beast. He can play everybody. He can play everywhere, and he can play against anybody. I like this a lot, man. I think he would team up next to Aiden Hutchinson so well. Just a behemoth of a player. Like I said, I love what he can give you in the pass game and in the run game. He's a true 3-down guy, in my opinion. He'd be very, very good in Detroit. And he's going to a really good team already, so that's a big positive for a player like him. Washington Commanders going with Nick Emanwari. Yeah, another fit that makes a ton of sense. Jeremy Chin was asked. They added Will Harris, but Jeremy Chin was not very good for them last year. He has some really bad tape. But, hey, he can play everywhere, man. Inside, outside. Dan Quinn's going to have a ball with him. I think Nick Emanwari certainly is going to be a first-round pick when it's all said and done. In Washington or, Baltimore or Minnesota, these are all really good fits for a player that just is an athletic freak and can play everywhere, like Nick Emanwari. So I like the pick a lot there to Washington to continue to add to that defensive line. A projected trade here, an AFC East deal. It looks like he's saying the Patriots are going to move up back into the first round with the Bills, which, even though it's an interdivision trade, would actually make a ton of sense because I think it's been such an aggressive offseason for the New England Patriots. They could do it. And then the Bills moving back, they're a really good team. They can move back, acquire more picks, and just kind of get more dart throws for later. So what they ended up doing is the Patriots gave away now the Bills are moving back to pick number 38, and they're also acquiring a third rounder, number 77, to the Bills. And the Bills are giving away pick number 30 and the fourth rounder. So they're upgrading. They're swapping third and fourth. It's great value there for the Bills, and not a crazy amount for the Patriots, which makes sense. And they are projected to go up there and get Josh Connerly Jr., the offensive tackle from Oregon. So they have gotten what some people think is one of the better, if not the best tackle in Josh Connerly Jr., somebody that's really, really rising up draft boards, I think. And also we're able to get Travis Hunter. That'd be a hell of a move, man. You got a guy that can give you some offensive juice. He can be a shutdown corner on defense. And now you got yourself a franchise left tackle. I like that a lot for the New England Patriots. That's something that makes a lot of sense. And then he's got the Raiders moving back up to trade with the Kansas City Chiefs, another interdivision trade. That would be crazy. For them to take Luther Burden the third. I did not know this happened. Damn. That'd be a really good pick for them. But just think about it this way, guys. All right. Let's say they made this move and they got Ibuka, or they made this move and they got Quinshon Judkins or Travion Henderson instead of Genty at 6. But then at 6, they got like, I don't know, a Mason Graham, a Will Johnson, somebody on the offensive or defensive side of the ball. But man, coming out of this first round with Ashton Genty and Luther Burden would be damn fun. If they could protect the quarterback, it'd be worth it. If not, ain't no point there, but that's a hell of a pick. And then at number 32, he's got the Philadelphia Eagles taking Jahad Campbell. Very interesting. They just brought back Zach Bond, and they do got Nakobe Dean. So, I don't know if the fit works, but if Harry Roseman does it, you already know the Philadelphia Eagles will figure it out. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, man. I feel like there's a couple other better options. Let's see. Like Kenneth Grant would have even made a lot more sense there. But anyways, getting into round 2, we're going to go through this a little bit quicker. Tyler Shuck, I think it's Tyler Shuck is how you say it, going number 33 to the Browns. I think that's kind of crazy. But you know what, man? It's the Browns. They drafted a 28-year-old quarterback in the first round in Whedon, Brandon Whedon. So who the hell knows what they're going to do? I think Tyler Shuck is decent. I think 33 is absolutely insane. I think taking a quarterback in the second round is just stupid for a lot of different reasons, but we don't have to get into that. So the Bills are now trading back up to go get Kenneth Grant. So they moved back up from 38 to 34 to get Kenneth Grant. All right. I guess that's just maybe to have a little bit more fun. Makes sense. Kenneth Grant would be a hell of a player for Buffalo. Phenomenal against the run. Some people say he has more upside and more potential than Mason Graham. I think Kenneth Grant's a beast. At 331 pounds, he'd be really, really good. There you go. He used Fortify too. It would. They'd help the Bills run defense even more. He can collapse the pocket. Very, very good player for the Bills. And the fact that they got a couple extra picks to move back and do it is a really good move there. So I like that. Donovan Ezaraku, the edge rusher going to the Tennessee Titans. Interesting that he fell to the second. Would be a phenomenal pick for them after getting Cam Ward in the first. Now you get yourself an edge player. I think they would have a phenomenal draft if they're able to pull that off. 36, Trey Amos, the corner going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Makes a ton of sense. You get Mason Graham. You come back with a really good corner in Trey Amos. I like that combination of Mason Graham and Trey Amos for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That would be really solid for them overall. Josh Simmons is going to the Kansas City Chiefs. Does he fall this much? He might, coming off the injury. Kansas City moved back a little bit, got some extra picks, still got Josh Simmons. I ain't gonna lie, man, it'd be a hell of a pick for them. It'd be a really, really good draft. I'd hate it as a Bronco fan again, as I said, but it would be really smart. That's what you got to do, is build out the offensive line, which was just decimated last year and got killed and exposed in the Super Bowl. So I like it, man. I like that pick. I'm moving on. Pick number 38. Tyler Booker. Love that pick for the Giants. So they moved down. They got themselves an extra 4th rounder in a very deep draft, which is really smart. They got Tyler Booker. They took Shedeur Sanders with the first pick. And that's exactly what you do. You if you take what you believe is going to be your franchise quarterback, you solidify the offensive line, and you do so from the inside out. Tyler Booker is a perfect fit for them out of Alabama. We talked about it. A lot of people said he's the Will. What was his name? That pass rusher that went to the Texans. Anyways, it's brain fart nation, man. But they said he's a big time leader on the Alabama offensive line. You just hear raving reviews about somebody like him. He's not the most athletic, but he's going to play inside, super powerful, great in the run game and the pass game. He'd be a phenomenal pick for them. I love that. I love that pick for the New York Giants. Coming out with Shedeur and then a really good guard is very smart. And I was surprised by this one. I didn't even check his second round out, to be honest with y'all. But Emeka Egbuka falling to pick number 39. In my opinion, that is falling. To go to Chicago, that would be a phenomenal pick for them because they got their offensive lineman in the first round in Will Johnson. Now they're getting an unbelievably talented player. If I was the Denver Broncos and Egbuka was falling, I'm doing whatever I could to go up and get him if I got Omarion Hampton. But it's a very good pick, and the Chicago Bears would be having an amazing draft. And They still pick in 2 more picks. So that would be crazy. Jaden Higgins is following him up to go to New Orleans. That I can get behind. Jaden Higgins is a hell of a player. He'd make a lot of sense opposite of Chris Olave there. You don't know what's obviously going on with him and his concussions. But yeah, man. I mean, Jaden Higgins would be a really good pick there for New Orleans. In the first pick, they ended up taking Shamar Stewart. So you got a lot of high upside, high risk, high reward. I think Jaden Higgins is somebody that's just going to be so solid and so good in the NFL. Great value there for him at 40. Didn't have to reach. I think it's a great pick for New Orleans. And then Chicago Bears are doubling back up and getting Quinshawn. Damn. The Chicago Bears. First of all, they're in a really prime position, man. I mean, that trade that they did with Carolina was just off the chain for them. And they have 2 picks in the second round and a high first round and a top 10 first round pick. So they're coming out of this with Will Johnson, Emeka Ibuka, and Quinshawn Judkins. Good Lord. That would be a hell of a pick, man. A+ for the Chicago Bears there. My goodness. Mason Taylor going number 42 to the Jets. PFF and their mock draft simulator got this dude always going in the 3rd round. I think that they're crazy. This is a part of the draft. It makes sense for somebody like a Mason Taylor to go. Pick number 42 for the Jets. I like that a lot for them. Ariante Ursary, offensive tackle for Minnesota, going to the Niners. They got Walter Nolan. They got Ursary. They are really just going with the high risk, high reward players. I'm not a big Ariante Ursary fan based off what I've seen and read, but they definitely need a tackle. If he can sit or play inside for a year, it could do him a lot of dividends. Ariante Ursary here makes some sense. And then they got Travion Henderson going to the Cowboys. I guess if it went like this, then it would make sense for the Broncos to take Hampton at 20. Because these guys are falling off like flies. Travion would be a hell of a running back in Dallas to go opposite of Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams. You got your 3rd down backs there, even though in a way Travion Henderson is better as a 3rd down back than anything, but he's dynamic. He'd be fun to watch. The fit's a little bit strange, but he's just too good of a player, man. He would work anywhere. Carson Schwessinger, the linebacker going to the Colts. I think he's a very slept-on player, not really being talked about a lot, but he's a very, very good player overall. Did a lot of work on him, before we signed Dre Greenlaw, because I'm like, the Broncos need linebacker. Carson Schwessinger is a really good player, man. He'd be fun there for Indianapolis. So they'd come out with Schwessinger and Tyler Warren. I think it'd be a really good haul for them for the first 2 picks. Darius Alexander, defensive tackle, going to the Falcons. Solid pick there. Solid pick overall. They got Mike Green. They continue to build on the defensive line now in the interior with Darius Alexander. Yeah, I like that one a lot. Nick Scorton, the edge player, going to the Cardinals. Another really good pick there, man. They got the offensive lineman. They got a pass rusher. You can never go wrong with those. If those guys hit, I really like that for them. Jonah Savaiinea, the guard, going to the Miami Dolphins. This actually makes a lot of sense. This I like. I didn't really like so much. I mean, they got Malachi Starks, a good player, but he's really good. Jonah's really good. I think he could be a really good tackle, but a lot of people are saying he's even better at guard. But that guard tackle versatility, that is what Miami needs to be able to, build out their offensive line around Tua. I think that's a really solid pick for them overall. They just keep getting guys that come from warm weather areas, man. Jonah was born in Hawaii. He played in Arizona. He's going to go play down in South Beach. So when it gets cold, we know it's going to happen. But is what it is. Azareye'h Thomas is going to go to the Bengals. This finally makes sense. They got Gray Zabel for the interior line. I would have liked for them to go defense in the first round. But a really good cornerback is what they need. But again, they need to make sure that they get it taken care of with Trey Hendrickson, and they build out that defense as much as they possibly can. Shavon Ravel, cornerback from East Carolina, going to the Seahawks. I think that's a really good pick for them. And he's got the Denver Broncos at 51 going with Elijah Arroyo. So the Broncos come out of this first and second round with Hampton and Arroyo. I mean, I think it's really fun. I would not hate it. I wouldn't hate it, I guess. I think it'd be pretty good. But I would rather the Broncos take a different direction, me personally. But it would be really fun, man. I think Elijah Arroyo is such a high upside player. Somebody that, some people are going to say, well, he's kind of similar to Evan Ingram, not really. This guy's got more pass rushing juice, but I love the talent. And if you can really maximize the pass catching ability from Elijah Arroyo and mix him in with Evan Ingram, you'd have a really fun and solid and dynamic group of playmakers around Bo Nix. With Omarion Hampton in the backfield, I think you're onto something. So, hey, man, that would be a lot of fun. That would be a lot of fun. I would not mind that at all. Jared Wilson going to the Seattle Seahawks to continue to make the interior of that line better. I like that pick a lot, Jared Wilson. It makes sense. I think he goes in the second round ultimately as a center. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going with Benjamin Morrison. They are taking a chance that he is going to be healthy coming off of the hip. If he is, it's a huge hit. Huge hit for them in the second round. So I dig that a lot. That'd be a really fun, good pick for them. And their secondary, man, could have gotten a lot better with Malachi and with Benjamin Morrison. So that'd be fun. Jack Betch, the wide receiver, going to the Packers. I think Jack Betch is phenomenal. I don't know how much sense he makes for the Packers, to be honest with you. They've kind of got a lot of other receivers that, in a way, project like him. I mean, he's stronger. He's more of a slot wide receiver too, but they got a lot of other wide receiver twos. It'd be interesting. It wouldn't be my number one choice, but I wouldn't hate it either. I think Alec Manor in Green Bay would make a lot more sense. If you flip these, it could work. But that's how he's got it. Alec Manor, man. Colson Loveland and Alec, are you kidding me? Shit. That would be good. That would be really good for the Chargers, man. I'm not even going to lie to you. Talk about getting weapons around Justin Herbert. My goodness. You'd have Lad McConkey, Alec Manor playing on the outside as the X, and Colson Loveland. Holy shit. Buffalo Bills going JT Tuimoloau. JT Tuimoloau. Yeah. Really good edge rusher. I watched a couple of videos on him, like of other people talking about him. They think that he's not only really, really good and underrated, but he's a lot better than Jack Sawyer. So, man, the Bills are having a really good draft with a good edge rusher, and then Derek Harmon. I like that one a lot. Carolina Panthers going Jalen Noel, one of my favorite players. I really liked watching him. I think he's a true slot, but I just think he's dynamic. I think he'd be very good. I think this might be a little bit too early for him, not going to lie. But I do like him a lot. I think he's just a strong player, man, and somebody that's dynamic as a slot receiver there. Kyle Williams going to the Texans. Yes, that's such a good pick for them. With Stephon Diggs leaving and with the unknown injury of Tank Dell, this dude can come in and fill in either role. I think he would complement Nico Collins really well. Love Kyle Williams. I like this pick a lot for the Texans. Xavier Watts, Baltimore. That fits like a glove, man. You're talking about somebody that can fit alongside Kyle Hamilton. Really, really good pick there. After getting, they get Kenneth Grant in the first round? No, they got James Pierce. That was a good one too. Love that. Tate Ratledge, interior player going to the Lions. Actually, a little bit surprised how high he goes, but man, they need to replace a lot of what they've lost on the interior of that offensive line. He can do that. The Detroit Lions doing Detroit Lion things. And then the Saints get their quarterback. They trade up and they get Will Howard, which, you know what? I think taking a quarterback in the second round is stupid, but Will Howard actually makes a lot of sense for Kellen Moore in that offense. So they traded up with Washington to get him. I like that. Jacob Parrish, the cornerback going to the Bills. Landon Jackson, edge rusher from Arkansas, going to the Kansas City Chiefs. That could be dangerous. And then Alfred Collins going to the Eagles. My God. Talk about a white glove of a fit. Perfect fit there. 2 rounds is a lot. I found that out by recording this, man. So that was quite a bit. And I need to go get some water. And I'm actually starving. I've been doing this for 49 minutes now. So appreciate y'all, man. Let me know what y'all think about Field Yates' mock draft 4.0. Maybe some of the analysis that I had. Who are your favorite picks and who do you think was a dog shit of a pick? I'd say, I think in this particular mock, the Los Angeles Chargers just knocked it out of the park. And the Chicago Bears. Both of them had A-plus drafts in this pick. I'm not really the biggest fan of what like the New Orleans Saints did. I think that what he did for the Broncos was decent. I could get behind Hampton and Elijah Arroyo, but I don't know. I think that there's better options out there. So we'll see, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Y'all take it easy. And until the next video, man. Peace out.